and you've got a Viking. And if you ever met him, John, because he ended up living in Germany, but he'd stopped wrestling. Dave, he was a busker. He ended up living in Hanover, being a busker. But Dave the Viking, he was.
I've heard the
and he
name,
was a big.
When I was there, but I don't think I ever met him.
Well,
but I know who you're talking about.
I remember seeing him as a kid, and for some reason, he stood there with an axe, and it's just like, and it wasn't wrestlers you saw on TV, and it was, and then you've got a guy on a microphone, ladies and gentlemen, and we don't want to fight these people, and then really what you get as many people in as you can, and there's a couple of little matches going on while the people are coming in. Then you very rare could you sell, because it held 750 people, this cabaret room. Very rare could you put that many in, or you tried to put as many as you could. That was how you made money, right? So, but you'd be outside, and there's such and such, and then there'd be one or two people taking on challenges out of the crowd, which 9 times out of 10 obviously weren't. Right? There was a psychology to the whole thing, and real people don't make good challenges, right? Because they're usually quite, or they're drunk and they're loud, and you can't take them in because you could kill them, right? And it's just, but so there was people in the crowd. So, and if there was ever anybody that needed, that there was real, which was
William, those people were they called marks at the time?
No, never ever used that term.
Never used the word term.
Never used that term.
They were just.
I'm the only carny. I'm the only carny wrestler left in. Well, me and Robbie in this business. Wow. I've never used that term, and nor does anybody. The term in Britain is a punter, and John will know that because he lives where he lives, and you know the British fellas. But a punter isn't a bad word. A punter is just somebody who takes a bet, or somebody who's a fan of something, or takes a bet on something. It's not a bad word. If you call somebody a mug punter, that's about as close to being the word mark as you could. That means they're an idiot, right? If you've probably heard that, John. A mug, always a mug, or it's a mug punt. But no, they're your audience, your fans. But everybody's a punter in England. If you go to horse racing, they call themselves punters. It's just, or you're a soccer punter, or so that term was never used, ever. I never heard that until I started hearing it from American wrestlers. It wasn't, because that's to me, if you think like that or call your audience that, that's all you'll ever give them. If you looked at, would you like to spend money and go to see anybody you liked in a theatre or in a band, thinking that they thought you were an idiot? Right. And that's what wrestlers do, and I don't get that. I've never.
I don't either.
You know, it's funny you say that, because Vince was the same way. You would never use that term around Vince.
No,
he would correct you. He would correct you if you did, because it was a derogatory term. Now, kind of now, it's kind of morphed over the years, a little bit, but it's still it's a derogatory.
It's a derogatory, horrible term. Yeah. It's not. Money's one thing. This isn't about. This is the way. And this was the fellow who I worked for on this carnival taught me this. A lovely fellow called Bobby Barron, who again was an incredible amateur wrestler. Should have gone to the Olympics. Used to train with Dave Taylor's dad. Was swimming in a swimming pool one day, a public swimming pool, and the lifeguard was flirting with a lady. Should have been watching, and they have the big diving boards. Should have blew the whistle. He was just doing his laps, his swimming, and somebody dove off the top diving board, nipped Bobby Barron on the back of the neck, broke his neck right before he went to the Olympics. And so once he healed up, Dave Taylor's dad Eric taught him how to be a pro wrestler. He ended up moving to Blackpool and started his company and doing the thing at the amusement park. And so that's another.
But the people that the wrestlers were taking on from the crowd, were they set up? Were they set up? Or
so this is where we get to. So Bobby Barron, who ran this, he used to tell me, look, this is I went there one day. So I've been doing this for a few weeks. I've been doing with this little this outlaw outfit in where I lived when I'm 15. And I'd go up to Blackpool. I just get a bus up there. Luckily, a plumber that worked, because my dad had a construction business, a plumber who worked for my dad. His sister had a bed and breakfast in Blackpool. And I could get the bus up there on early Saturday morning. And then I would stay until Sunday night and come home. I could stay with her. I just started hanging around there and just watching and paying to go into every show they did and just watching it. And I just went up to, after like a month of doing that, I went up to this promoter, Bobby Barron, and he said, I said to him, you know, I'm doing some wrestling now. I you know, 15-year-old, you know what you're talking about. I want to be a wrestler. He said, okay, go out and challenge this fella. Can I just finish, keep me on track here? I just want to finish off what Bobby Barron taught me about. And this is a carnival promoter. He said, it's got nothing, never mind money, you should never treat your audience badly. Never mind money. It's not money. He said, the most thing that you should cherish with your audience is they're giving you their precious time. And you should never take that for granted. Which is the way I've always tried to do, you know, like it's a great mind. And that's somebody who is a carnival promoter. Money is one thing. If we make money off people, they don't have to come and watch what we do. Don't ever get into that mindset of a lot of wrestlers of looking down on your audience, because that's all you'll ever stay. You'll never try and up your game. So although I was around, I had a very solid influence with Bobby Barron, who was a great fella. He was great to me, great to Robbie Brookside. He was like a second dad to me. And he was the real, you know, he was the real deal. So I go up to, and he said, right, go out. Because I'd figured out, that was it. I'd never noticed before, but now, because I'd been watching for a month, it's the same people in the crowd all the time. And what they used to do, so it wasn't too obvious, it used to take maybe 4 different times for the wrestlers to come out and the guy on the microphone to get a house, enough to run a show. Sometimes in a real busy season, if it was a real good day, twice. But they had 2 lots of fellas to go in the crowd. So even if you hung around a little bit, or if you were just, because there was not just the wrestling there was all kinds of, there was obviously rides and stuff, but there was other stalls and, you know, like darts things and shooting rifles. And if anybody, they couldn't say, oh, it's the same people. You'd have to stand around for about half an hour to figure out, well, that's what I did. So, because I'm just watching everything, I'm trying to figure this all out. So he said to me, go out and challenge, do a challenge. You said you've seen it, haven't you? And I said, yeah. Somebody you know, John? And he was called Magnificent Maurice at the time, but the person taking on the challenges was Colonel Brody.
Sure.
Right. Well, Colonel, he was an handful, you know. You know, you probably know him as being quiet, but before any of this happened, the week before, this month that I'm watching this and watching it closely, I paid to go into the show. This is the week before I've actually talked to the promoter. The week before, I've paid to go into a show, and I'm sat at the back watching, because the atmosphere was unbelievable in there, because everybody thought that they were paying to watch who they thought was one of them from the crowd to fight these wrestlers. It was like unheard of, that. And it was a danger. And thinking about it, the danger in there, because there was real bars, and it was a cabaret room with real glasses, and I've had it myself, just throwing glasses at you, and then idiots. Nobody would challenge outside. The real problem was when you got inside, You got people drinking. They come to Blackpool and they leave the brains at home, right? They come on the train, they come on the bus, and they're drinking all the way. Lunchtime, they're already drunk or whatever they're doing, and you've got gangs of fellas, and you've got, and what happens a lot of the time, you had your fellas outside. Once, if they came in, all of a sudden it's people hitting the ring, and they're right. This is a 14-foot ring in all tables and chairs, because it's a cabaret room. They have a magic show in there at night, and that's when people get brave. And it's like dark, and they're hitting the ring. But there's people in there. Oh, left, right. So it's like bang, bang. If there's anybody's trying to hit the ring, right? That was where most of the problems were, was people getting brave once they got in, or being too drunk and getting turned away outside, and then still paying to come in. And there was a lot went on there. But the week before, I talked to the promoter. I'm just watching this show, and I've watched Colonel Brody, who John knows, Sean. I see him do the thing, because obviously it wasn't a wrestling match. They just like make it look like a fight with a person from the crowd, and then stick him in a grommet, or whatever it may be, some kind of submission, or and sometimes there was the odd real person that come up and whatever else. I watched a fella jump in, and I thought, I don't recognize him. And it was somebody who got brave. So Sean, Colonel Brody, is turned away, because he's just finished off that. This fella hit the ring, grabbed Sean round the neck. I just see Sean drag this fella over the top and boot him, just like so, kick in the jaw. This fella's jaw just went like that, and blood splattered up, and the whole place was screaming. And I'm thinking, oh, that's good. How did they do that? Not realizing that this was a straight that had jumped in and got hammered. Because I think I'm safe to say, but Sean had been away for quite a while, in jail. And for doing some not nice things to people. Sean was although when you met him, Johnny, once he went to Germany and that, but he was a handful, right? He could be I know he was pretty mellow probably, but he was a right handful. And he was a big man as well, and a lot bigger than most people in Britain. So he said to me, when I finally asked, he said, right, go and challenge him. So because I've told Bobby Barron that I'm doing some wrestling, I'm thinking, oh, he's obviously going to tell these people. So I just, in the crowd, I go up, I say, I'll fight him, 15-year-old kid. Okay, I go in. Next thing, I'm just in this dark area. And then they go, right, your turn. And all of a sudden, you're out of this dark area, and there's a spotlight on you, and I'm just walking to the ring before I know what's happening, up these steps, and I'm in the ring, and I go over, and Sean just, I've seen enough of it for the last month. He just grabs hold of me. Sean could have stopped my wrestling career right there. Colonel Brody could have stopped because he could have hammered me. Because what I found out later was he didn't know. But because I'm a 15-year-old and he's not a liberty taker, whereas some people would have done that, because there was a lot of people who would just, didn't matter who you were, they didn't weigh up the situation. Anybody that got in the ring, they got hammered. He's just grabbed hold of me, and I'm going, trying to give him these like moody working punches. I'm thinking he must not. And the next thing, he's just hit me on the back and put me in a single leg Boston. He put it on a bit, and I just tapped out, because I'd seen enough that the young person, that there was always at least two, if not three. There was a young person or a smaller person went up first to get the crowd sort of there, and the guy on the microphone, and then through the crowd would become a big person. And there was a lot of those, and Drew McDonald did a lot of that, and different people. But if you've got the crowd and there's a guy outside and the mic, and you're going, how long do you think you're going to last? A guy on a microphone, having some just getting the audience captivated, and all of a sudden you hear all fighting, and pushing through the crowd comes a 6 foot odd fella who's 20 stone or 280 or whatever, and the crowd goes insane. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to see this coming, and then they come, they're paying at the cash register, boom, 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 and that's how it worked. The psychology of if it was anybody real, first of all, you've got to know your ring. You're in a 14-foot ring, right? You don't let anybody take you out of your space. They had to last 3 3-minute rounds. And if you lasted a round, you got £10. Doesn't sound like a lot, but £10 to a fella who's not, maybe making £100 a week is a lot. 2 rounds, £20. If you last 3 rounds or knock the wrestler out, you get £100. £100 at that time was a weekly man's wage.
And how long were your rounds?
3 3-minute rounds.
Okay.
So the first, when I was doing it, so from then onwards, that was it. I was accepted in. And every weekend, that's what I did. I was one of the people that went up first. And then they started in between shows, fellas, some of the wrestlers that were doing the matches while they were trying to draw the crowd in, they'd always have a couple of short matches on. They started teaching me some stuff. When you're 15, you're just a kid. You're not. They were just showing me stuff. So I ended up at 15 having matches with like 17-year-olds and that, like 5 3-minute round matches in a short period of time. So that's really where my wrestling started. They would, because they'd been in the job a couple of years, they could carry me through you can do 3, used to do always 3, everything in Britain was 3 finishes. Not everything, but most of the time it was 2 falls, 2 submissions, or a knockout to decide the winner. That's how they used to say it. So somebody who was 17 could carry my 15-year-old self through a 5 3-minute round match with 3 finishes in it, and I knew how to do as you call it, a sunset flip. In England, it's a double leg Nelson. That was it. I knew how to do that. I know how to do a dive. We call it a dive across a crossbody, and they just call it. And so that was where my stuff started, doing little matches.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. When you talk about the crowd psychology, we've all talked now with, different people who understand speech coaches and different people who teach you how to communicate and stuff.
Yeah.
What you got was a Harvard equivalent education of crowd psychology, because if you can work there, it teaches you everything about crowds, about fans, about how to interact with people. It's an education that so many people don't have, which is a disadvantage for people. But it's funny because when I hear these really intellectual types talking about how to, get over with the crowd and speaking and stuff, I'm thinking, you learned that at age 15. It's the greatest education in the world.
Well, what I find fascinating, each aspect of your training was dealt with psychology, just like the 3 guys that come out, lightweight, you just kind of the progression and everything, but it's all set up the mindset of the crowd and the audience there.
Yeah. But Jerry, if you think about it,
it's so fascinating over there. Yeah.
You get an Ivy League guy, and I'm not trying to besmirch the Ivy League or any type like that, but you get him to talk to a guy like Barron, he would probably look down on him because he would think, what would this guy know? He doesn't have a formal education like I have. He knows crowd psychology better than anybody in that's teaching an Ivy League course in crowd psychology, because that's true learning how to work, manipulate, or whatever you want to do with a live audience.
So the psychology of working the fairground and the carnival, and this was anywhere in the world. In America, there was traveling carnivals, and a lot of wrestlers started on there. And it was the same when I worked there. If you do get somebody who comes up who's real and is not drunk and is not an idiot, and you let them in, well, they're all hyped up outside. There's several things to this. They're all hyped up. They're usually with the friends who are all egging them on. Well, then it's okay. You come in. They're not drunk. You can't get rid of them. Excuse me. They're not drunk. You can't get rid of them. They're there. It really shouldn't happen, because your fellas should have cut them off. So you're getting paid £20 a show. You don't want to be fighting straights, right?